Okay, let's get a link. Ah, is this being done? Oh. All right, so yeah, it works. Right, let's go back to the thing and oh, do you want to put the link on the Discord for the
Yeah,
rest?
sorry, I'm just uploading this TikTok quickly.
Yeah. Da, da. Yeah. Oh, so let's get set up. Now the next thing is this thing is uh, yeah the okay. So play the game. That's something like we got temporary UI here, right? That we can use. Um, now okay, let's do the climb the climb challenge, right? Let's uh let's prepare our first mission, climbing mission. So this I need to change the names because yeah, a bit confusing. Um, okay. Um, so I think this would be. Ooh. Yeah, we need to package right our mission screen, right?
Yeah,
So
so we need to. I mean, the first thing to do is that obviously it's gonna pop up without having to require any other inputs, right? But that's
yeah,
fine.
yeah, exactly.
The
Yeah,
first,
yeah,
we need to like decide on what the actual visual for it is.
yeah. So but let's have a preview here, right? So this is um I just type something random and then we just we just define, right? So let's say welcome to your first. Okay. And this is I think this needs to be bigger. What is the font size in this thing?
So, so with this as well, so in terms of with the UI perspective, right? I'm actually gonna fire up. Let me fire up. Have you checked all this stuff in, by the way?
Yeah, yeah.
Let me grab it quickly. I'll fire up on there. So I've posted the thing. I'll do the Instagram post in it. Have you checked it into dev by chance?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I was waiting because I thought. I just wanted to check the word. What?
Because you got Unreal open, isn't it? You made changes now.
But why did I got so many changes? I didn't have these changes before. So, wait a sec, right? Every time I change the save class, does it touches all of those assets? That's very interesting, actually. That is spooky and scary. What the hell? Is it just like? Don't save this one. It's got. Uh, no, okay, that can be true. Okay, just push that one. All right, good morning, people. Oh, there's lots of people in the chat. All right, hello, everyone. Yeah. Okay, ready. Okay, so yeah, if you wanna grab latest now, David is should we can.
Yeah, let's do it. Cheers, QB. See you later. Let us know.
Nobody needs to sleep.
Sleep is overrated.
Sleep is so 80s.
It really is, isn't it?
One sec.
Like,
What the hell is this? Why we got a million arrows? Whoa. What is this thing? It's just
do
been
I want to
stupid.
grab this?
Yeah, grab this. I just. Yeah. What? Right. Okay, no, yeah, grab that. It's just
yeah. It's like I saw the arrows. Like, do I want to infect my?
You're really sure you want to grab it?
Yeah. My beautiful branch.
Yeah, screw that. screw the beard. No, it was just the LinkedIn of Ryder going crazy, but. Actually, while we are here, okay, so yeah, we prepared the first the first mission screen, right? And then but let's see how yeah let's while we haven't got the game running, so we can make important code changes. Let's let's work out the activation point, right? So so the user starts. Actually, let's add in the player state, right? Not this one. Our own player state. SP3 player state. Player state. Right. In our own thing, right? Actually, while we're here, right? Let's do it properly. I'm gonna do human emotion, like, so we got character, we got player states. How do we call this you save game elements? We call it.
So what are we trying to do now?
I just want to get the player matrix data class out of the player state class, just to isolate.
Oh, so like into an interface. So okay.
Yeah.
My question again also is though, this player metrics, is it going to be generalized for everything we're going to store about the player, or are we going to have like individual metrics for like jump metrics, climb metrics, that kind of thing?
I don't know. What do you think? I think just one.
I worry that because I think if the player state is going to hold multiple ones, I think the player state should hold its jump metrics, its climb metrics, its individual ones, and therefore then we then know that each respective manager only interacts with the respective metrics. So it's like it doesn't ever expose the jumps to the climb and vice versa. Then I can just be like get player metrics or the player metrics what's it called, player metrics number of whatever plus the climb metrics increase that other player state, right? So we have one player state class or save game. So we have one player state, right? And an instance of that within from the character owner, right? And then so the character owner has one player state, and then the player state, that's per session basically. That's your current save per session. Like once you restart or once you get a new character, it's gonna have a new player state, whatever it is. Your save game is what goes across the whole thing. So your player state, that's unique to your character. Then your player state has like your jump metrics, your climb metrics, blah 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 blah. Each are saved within their own respective manager. I feel that might be a nicer way to split it up rather than being like they all talk to player metrics and then we have because I worry how big the player metric structure will become when we start to do like number of executed jumps in sequence, blah blah blah.
Yes, but I think too much granularity will be bad for us. I mean, yeah, there is a balance between like a monolithic, mega uber thing and like every single variable is its own thing. I think in this case, I think we go too much granularity. Like, and the reason why I think it's that is that there is nothing that, like, because of the way we expose the managers to each other, like in the climbing manager, nothing is stopping you saying, oh, get jump player matrix, because we cannot hide
because they do interact with each other anyway. So
yeah, so
it's almost like having one single point of truth. Then it's probably even better.
Yeah, I think so. I think in this case, like less granularity is better.
Yeah, let's just stick it all in the player metrics then.
Yeah, because it's also like it's nice to have like just an overview of the whole matrix rather than
the
like
whole logic. Yeah,
going to find, do we have a matrix for this? Do we have?
No. Yeah, it's true.
So yeah, so let's move this guy out. Let's move this guy out into the unknown. Let's just go to player matrix, really, right? It's a character. We may want to get. Should we? Yeah. So how do we call those save game thingy? The player matrix is like the structure. There will be. Is our persistent store for in this case the player metrics.
So the player metrics, that is per character.
Yeah.
Like each play session of the character. So whenever you restart the game, that will also get reset. The thing that's persistent is the controller. and it is the save game and the controller, right? So
Oh yeah, but like the data in the player metrics are saved in the persistent store. They are saved and loaded every time you get a new character, but like they are saved persistently when you do save game, right?
oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, so yes. Oh, so you're saying the actual persistent store in the controller uses the metrics class. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. Yeah. So I mean, okay, just the let's call like character. Let's add the just the logically. It's not like but let's call persistent, right? What's this spelling? Persistent like this? Persistent stunt? I don't know. Persistent. Is that the way it's spelled?
Question though, is that correct though? Should we be storing these metrics persistently?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, because then you will never know if you done a mission or not and stuff like that, right?
No, but is it these it's not those are tutorial stuff though. That's
Yeah,
what we're storing because the tutorial stage, that's we store persistently across sessions,
yeah,
right? So we save that. We're not necessarily saving how many jumps in sequence you're doing or the number of jumps you've done. What we're saving is have you completed stage 1
yeah,
and section 2?
yes, but I think a persistent matrix for the player. We need they ultimately needed to be saved when we go experience point or
Yeah.
how many items do you have, blah blah, right? Like all of those are.
Hmm.
But usually matrix per nature, right? They tell you the story throughout the lifetime of your experience, right? So
Okay, that's
intrinsically
fine. That makes
matrix
sense. So
are
we can keep
persistent,
adding
right?
to the save game just is like an additive thing, right?
Yeah,
Because that makes sense because the controller is not going to interact or get data from the save game. It just pushes it to it will, but only if like the tutorial stuff and
yeah,
whatnot, not the actual play. Okay, yeah, that's cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if you just add a class and we call it player method. Add, then we move it. Player matrix dot age is this guy here. Right. Now we have to do if state here. We don't need the game. I wanted to include the generated one. Include what's the name? Player matrix. Okay, so I should. I really don't like this freaking thing. So the player matrix are there, and then we need to do. Okay, yeah, we need to do this. Ah, okay. So character. Did I spell it persistent correct? Persistent. Need to ask ChatGPT. No, I spelled it wrong. I hate the fucking.
I can't see your screen. Where am I looking?
I know I did the A instead of the E.
Oh, yeah. I can't even see it on your screen. Oh, persistent. Yeah, TNT.
Percy. Oh, this right? Yeah.
Oh, he renamed it. Oh, you want it in the private. Yeah, you drew copying it. Nice. New context.
Okay. Let's build this thing.
I'm gonna re-enable the cloth similar legs. Because why the
Yeah, usually when I go a 50-50 on the spelling, I always get it wrong. Oh yeah, player matrix is character system. Character system player matrix. I need to bring the code from the state. Yeah. Well, there's nothing in the code. Okay. Good.
That load game template, right? That we just pass it the class thing that we want to save, right? And then that will yeah, that will load. Okay, so if it doesn't exist, it'll do it, and it cool.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Using the fan class player matrix. This. So you know what? I think I'm gonna do it. I think I'm gonna include it in the. Yeah, because the jam manager then. No, okay, it's fine. It's fine. I mean, this is fine. Yeah, you want to use it. You need to have it. It's okay. Yeah.
Should we question there? Should player metrics just be included in the like human character or the player-based movement or something?
Yeah, I generally I tend to let the compiler tell me the errors because like if you include let's say that we include the player metrics in the human character, right? That gets like referenced everywhere, and without you knowing, you get access to the player metrics everywhere. Well, you at least see the interface of the player matrix, right? And that is usually it's hiding. That is usually a signal of like you basically assume that everything is visible everywhere. If you just say, "Oh, this includes everything," right? Then you are you're not forcing the client to really know what they're doing, because they say, well, okay, let's just use this. It's just like everything is available for me. Well, you can hide it into private interfaces and all the stuff, right? But just the fact that if you don't know it is there, it means that you like down the line that could create problems because because you don't know that thing, where that thing existed and why that thing existed. So having the compiler telling you the errors, let's say, oh, you use the player matrix there, like that, like, are you sure that you need to use the player matrix there? Because then, because with that error there saying, oh, the jump manager needs to know about the player matrix because he wants to use it, right? You may think, oh, but the jump manager doesn't need to know about the player matrix because it's conceptually the wrong thing to do. And by having the compiler to give you an hard error at compile time, it's always better because you can decide, right? Oh, no, this is the right place. I just need to include it. Or, oh, no, actually, this is a logical error. The we cannot have the player matrix in the jam manager because of our architecture, right? So you can say, right, sure, that was the wrong code to do. And generally, if you had includes, if you had too many includes, it slows down the compilation time because it would just bring a lot more to the compiler that it needs to. So there are like a couple of reasons why you always want to favor compile time error rather than finding out a runtime that that thing could couldn't work well. Alright, so hey Noma, let's let's think about the player controller, right? Uh, the controller. Right. Line play chart. Input components. Now this is quite minimal. As a player controller, got a tick function. Tick. Why is not tick? Yeah. Yeah, it's got tick function. Okay. Let's get this guy here. Yeah. Oh, what the heck? Why is not filtering out? Ah, this is stupid then. Okay, now we got tick function. Well, let's build this. Right, um, so we said that we wanted to have the tutorial uh, that deals with the controller, right? Is that the right thing to do? Oh, David, you are muted.
Oh, stop talking again. Sorry. Yeah. So you're saying that so have the tutorial in the controller thing? Is that what you're asking about?
Yeah. So let's have So like now we got all the thing ready, right? So the controller is so yesterday we said the controller is in the tutorial, right? So the tutorial is in the controller, right? But
Tutorial is in the controller.
but uh isn't that something that the character is doing? Isn't that something that the player is, achieving?
Yeah, but thing is, the tutorial is separate. right, the player isn't although the player is achieving it, right, the tutorial is this thing that's happening that the player state and things relative to the player, like it ticks off according to it. So like there's like a bridge between the two. The tutorial exists outside of the player, right? Because I'm always just thinking of like in terms of the player as the character and that's it, right? So like outside of the character, right? So having the stuff about the number of jumps, all that stuff, that is hyper relative to the character, right? The tutorial, you could change what character you're doing, right? It could be Josh, it could be Toby, it could be an enemy, the whatever thing that's going on is moving. The tutorial is separate to that. The tutorial is like check is it more so in your world and in your game instance of like how many volts has your character done, how many things has your character like, it's like that sort of checkbox that your character ticks off, but we tick it off based on like by checking the actions of your character. And that's why that controller is useful, because the controller will sort of like, it will tell us the inputs relative to the whole game itself rather than the character as a specific. So then it's, if we hold the tutorial in a section removed, we can change whatever character we're using and the tutorial will work the exact same. So it's like if we wanted to have a system for, I don't know, like multiple different players, right? They don't each have a tutorial thing. It's like, no, there's the tutorial is held in the game itself. But then it's like, maybe they all want a tutorial. Because I don't know if the tutorial is a character property. I feel like it's a property of the game, not the character. That's why.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just think in terms of mission, not the tutorial, because like,
okay. Yeah. Tutorial. Yeah.
Yeah. So the mission, to me, the name implies that it's a game property, right?
That's my thing. Yeah. Because it's sort of like a sub game mode, basically. Right. Yeah. That's how I'm viewing each mission, like. Because the game mode is free roam, and then the internal mission within that is one level lower. So it's separate to the character. That's the thing I'm trying to get. It's like, it's regardless of whether or not your character is there, like if you die and respawn, whatever, the mission should keep going. Like we shouldn't create a new object of that, right? Because obviously the controller, if I'm wrong, the controller is persistent across the game instance, whereas the player state is not. So, and the player character is not. So the player character can die, respawn, be deleted, and the tutorial will be like, you still need to do 2 jumps, mate. You know, even if you respawn the character or delete the object, whatever it is.
But isn't that the same thing though? Because so the thing I still having doubts about this is let's think in terms of like the logical like architecture of the thing, right? So like at the moment we only go one player, so that is very easy because it's player 0.
Yeah, and it's single player, obviously.
Yeah, basically, so player 0 is everything. Is the game, is the controller, is the
everything is the player character, is everything. Yeah.
But that's not logically correct, right? So let's just like architecture this thing in the most logically correct way. So like. So the pawn, right? It could be, let's say that we got a local multiplayer, like we got 4 players, right? So go player 0, 1, 2, 3. Now, the player character, right? Is that connected to, like, is it connected to, do we have like player controller 0, player controller 1, player controller 2, or we have one unique, like one instance of player controller? How is that?
You can get there is like, I think what I believe is each like client or whatever will be its own player controller. So that will be like what's it called? Because you get the player in for each player index, right? So say you have 4 players on a client. So if you say locally, right, you have 4 players. Each will have their own player controller, right? Which will allow them to. So with each having their own, because you know it's like get player index, and then it's like get play. Like if you see in the blue, let me see here. So it's like. Yeah, so here. So this is it. So if you see here, it says you can't see my screen, can you? Let me show my screen.
Yeah, no, I can see.
Yeah, this makes it make sense. Yeah, because the get player controller is a game, it's a game thing. So here, it's yeah. So the player controller here, this is while iterating through the local and available remote player controllers. So there will be multiple yeah, so yeah, on a network client, so it'll just be you, right? So it's just like yourself. So each say we have local multiplayer, whatever, yeah. So each player control, they'll have like each character, whatever, or controller will be like we'll have a player controller. Now your player controller has player character. So here, if you see here, returns the pawn for the player controller at the specified player index, right? So this would be like when we say get player controller here, we get player index, right? And then that will give you the and then if we say get player character here, that gives us but this at the specified player index. So basically this is like doing this to then go get player character, basically. That kind of way, yeah. Index in the player controller list, yeah. And then this is the returns the controller itself. This will return the pawn of that controller. So then but then you can change the player character of the controller, right? Like you can kill it, you can change it, whatever it is.
No, one sec. Like, can you get the player character from the player controller? See, because that is the thing I wonder, right? If those are separate entities and the only thing that links them is an index, right? So, but I just don't get it, right? Like, can you do get player state in that controller? Yeah, that's why you can get the player state and not the player character. I think we're still missing a couple of pieces in the puzzle here, right?
So here points to this is the player state of the pawn, right?
Yeah, but you cannot get the pawn from the. See, I thought that the controller like controlled the pawn, right?
Thing is, I think it does. So what I'm seeing here is that the controller, although like you could access the they do a weird way of doing it because like get player character, right? This is the index in the player controller list.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's like each controller has a character. Get the character of the controller at this index. So it's like a weird way of bypassing this, but it would have made more sense to do this and then be like get player character.
Oh, I think maybe they did that to avoid the double dependencies because, like, can you get the player controller from the player character? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is it, right? Yeah.
Local viewing player controller, whether it's controlling a thing. Yeah. So I do think in terms of like where the game interacts with it, like it's yeah, because what I was seeing is that like we need to separate the player character from the game itself. Like there needs to be a bit of a like how do I get to my player character, right? Because for things that are overarching, because my player character can change basically. So that's the thing, like that can change, right? But for me, my player controller won't. Like what I'm doing, what I've done, blah blah blah, all that stuff. That this will stay the same, and there is only you'll only get one of this, and you won't change it. So if I get this player controller for my controller now, I'm not gonna delete my player controller and get a new one, right? This is just gonna be the one I have. But I can change around my player character depending on, and I just give it to the player controller. And then this player controller here will allow me to like use and communicate any things that basically are beyond just within the character itself. So I think something like the tutorial that will be perfectly held in my own. The thing what I really need to just get my head around is the player state, if that is an extension of the player character, or if it's just if it's like a game thing. Because if it's it makes sense if it's like the player state and the player character are separate but connected in the sense of like my player character will update this player state, right?
Yeah.
That is held, but then it's a character, it's a variable of my character, right? So or like a property of it. So each character has a player state, right? And it does whatever. The weird thing though, it seems that player state goes beyond that. So it seems like player state is like the name of the player and all that kind of. Let me just check here.
Yeah, but I think like from what I see, like I think like we shouldn't put any logic. I think I'm changing my mind. I think like putting any logic in the player controller is wrong, because from what I see, right? So the player controller only holds the index of. It's basically an index, right, to the player character, right? But so let's say that we got local multiplayer. We got four people in split. Let's say like Super Mario Kart. Okay, we go 4 people in split screen, and in one game, right, I am the player 1. In another game, I'm player 4 because I connect my controller, last, right? So I see that indexing as like now you are still Dado, but now you are player 4 because you connect.
Yeah,
4.
no, it's wrong. It's the other way around. Player state is an extension of player state is what's replicated. Player controller is not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
because obviously player controller gives access because so player controller only server size, and they control pawns and server which are later replicated to clients. Player state is where you place information from the player controller that you want replicated to all your clients, but the server should not rely on that information, so you just copy. Okay, yeah. So stuff like things that you want across, right? So basically, player state. Okay, so yeah, we got this wrong. So with your player character, right? Okay, so I think this is the way. This is the. Yeah, so I think the way it is that you have your player character. And then your player controller is like your overarching things about your character. It's like the actions that you want to do. So like stuff like open menu, open blah blah blah, open HUD, all that stuff. That's your player controller, right? Now, and those are just for your input actions, right? Those are just like representing what my controller wants to do to my character that isn't like character specific. So like the opening a menu thing, that's an overarching thing regardless of what my character does, right? So then I can put that in my player controller. So it's really just an input handler, right? It's not really a data controller, right? Then your player state sits slightly above that in terms of anything you then need to share across both client and server that you want, like, is persistent throughout the game, then you put in your player state. So stuff like tutorial, all that's like level, XP, current health, all that blah 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 that you want to replicate, you'd actually put that in your player state. Or like, so then if I'm playing a game, for example, on a mission, and I need to say like, oh, player 1 has 20 health or player 10 has 50 health, I'd access their player states to see what's going on.
Yeah.
So the player state will tell you your tutorial progress, not your player controller.
Yeah.
So your player state will hold like, oh, I'm halfway through the tutorial, blah 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 blah, and then your player state will like save that to your player state will like save that and load that blah blah blah, because that's in the state thing itself.
Yeah, no, but like the player state shouldn't have any logic. I think the player state should be like pure data.
Just
hold
data.
Yeah, everything is.
I see. So the controller will save it, right? Well, in terms of like my input is to save. Or where do we put the logic for?
Or is the character? Because I think, right, if I do the mission, it's the character that needs to say, oh, I did the mission. Because I like my character Dado played the game. Whatever controller is associated with my character is Dado that made the mission. So Dado should say, yeah, I made it. Because I think the controller is only like, as you say, like I think it really as much as I can see, I cannot find any use cases apart from handling inputs where the character is not available, which is mainly boils down to the front end stuff, right? Yeah, open menu, like pause menu, change the setting of the graphics card, blah blah, right? All those things you don't need your player. But apart from that, I don't think the controller, right, shouldn't do any logic that belongs to the character playing the game.
No, I see what you mean here. I'm reading this one Reddit thing, and it makes quite a lot of sense. He said like, the player controller purely handles inputs. Like that just tells the pawn what to do or the game what to do in terms of but that it handles inputs that we might want to use across different pawns. So stuff like open HUD, close HUD, that kind of thing, or like open menu, close menu, that kind of stuff, right? So some of the UI stuff, that's the player controller. Things that is like, because it can control different pawns at the same time, like one at a time, but it can be used for different pawns, right? So I can be like switch out to Josh Mesh or Josh character, whatever, and it'll be able to control that and still have the same things before. Now the player character itself, that is the things that is unique to the character, like jumping, blah blah blah, all that stuff there, and inputs for that character alone. Then the state, is stuff like name, ID, things like I guess things that you want to keep, right? Things that you want to because that is replicated, right? So then your name, your ID, all that stuff, that the server and other clients will know what that is. And it's like, if the server wants to check, who is currently furthest along in the time trial, right? It would check your player state, because your player state will hold current time trial time or something like that, right? But then in terms of completing each bit, right, I think your player holds where you're at, but your character will update that. So in terms of, like, if you say we had your player state holds your tutorial stage, right? When my character does something, my character will be like, update tutorial stage, if that makes sense.
My character. The character.
Basically, it's what you said. Yeah, the character itself is what sends the events of like to change any data in the player state. The character sends it.
Yeah.
Not the controller. And then the controller handles inputs across characters. The character itself, which is what's being played, that communicates player state to tell so that the player state knows what the character is doing, basically. And then the player state just stores information and variables about the character. So like you said, like number of jumps done, what tutorial section is it on, how far, like what time trial bit is it on, blah blah blah. And then we have the game state, which will hold information about the game itself. So like, how long have you been in free roam, like how many players are in the thing, like who's winning, that kind of thing, like who's first in the time trial, blah blah blah, based on getting all of their. But then to do that, it will get their all their games, their player state stuff. So it'll be like get all the player states from team 2, add up their scores to, and get all the player states from team 1, add up their scores to see who's winning. If that makes sense.
Yeah, but that could also be part of the game state. Like part of that the game state is who won the game, team 1.
Yeah, that is game state. No, that's that who's winning, how far you're winning. That's game state. Player state will hold my score for that player.
Yeah, your own
So if
thing.
in order to, so the game state is sort of like the referee, right? The player state is the player, the game state is the referee, and then the game mode tells me the overarching rules for the game that I want to do, things that apply to all teams and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So it could be like, yeah.
The only inconsistency there is I don't see the use of having the player controller as an index thing, because if we use the player controller when you don't have, see, what is the user of the player controller when the player character is active? I cannot see any use case in, because if it's only for the menu stuff, right, then I don't want to have an index to the player. I just want to have open the menu. I don't care if it's player 1, 2, 3, and 4 that open the menu. I just want to open the menu, because that is like completely agnostic of who is playing. Like, so
because the thing is as well is that because one thing I'm seeing here is like each character might want to do different things on the W key input, on like on a specific input, but you can only possess one at a time. But then that means if I would just put my W input respective to the specific character. Like I wouldn't generalize it then. I would just say like, okay, well, rather than putting the W input in the player controller, each character will have a W input that does what I want it to do. So I'm not too sure why you would even pull it back a level to put it into the controller when you could just put it into the character and have the character do it for itself.
Oh, because I think like the character is only one. So like you have one instance of, not one instance. You go like multiple instance, but of the same class, right? So you may want
the controller. But what I'm saying
say,
is like if I have my class W, which opens up a menu, right, and I want it to open the menu, because the controller doesn't hold data; it just does actions, right? So if I want to say open the menu, and if I say, well, so this is what I'm saying. I only see it being used across things that should apply to all characters. Like it's not a unique thing for each character. So you're not repeating thing in each character. Like the controller is something that if you change characters, you want this input to do something. Because the way the guy's playing it here is that if I want my input to do different things for each character, you should do it in the controller. But I'm like, wouldn't you do that in the character? Like, because you know how we can have inputs for like when I press right trigger in the player character, it jumps. But then if I wanted to do a different character, first person, whatever, when I press right trigger, it climbs or whatever it is. Rather than having logic in the controller, I would just say, well, whichever character is controlled, use the right trigger input for that.
Yeah, but you have the same class, right? So you cannot, you don't know, who you are, because the class for the player character is only one class, right? I think what they're trying to do is just to like probably is a case that nobody's using, but probably is the case of like, and this is why I think they're disconnecting the player controller and the player character. They don't know about each other, and the only relationship is this magic index, right?
Index.
So it's got this player index, which is just the number, right? So I think it's the way to say, well, yeah, I don't know, it's a local multiplayer, like player index 1, like is I don't know, let's go a blue T-shirt with I don't know, red jeans, whatever, and player 2 has got the same player character class, but the player character sends different data to player 2. Oh, now you got a white T-shirt with black trousers, right? I don't know. Like, I see that only, like, but you see, like, yeah, the use cases are extremely limited, but which me is just the way it is. It's like they over overzealously architecture this system in case for people that needed just that special case. Because it's still like, okay, maybe they're bad at naming convention, but if you call something player controller, the first thing that comes to my mind is input controller. It's nothing else than that. So
no, I think it is right. I think the player controller should purely handle the will of the player. Like, it should just say, what do I want to do that can extend beyond just the character. Basically, that's my what I'm getting. The vibe is that what does the player itself, like my controller, basically, like my actual gamepad, this gamepad 1, gamepad 2, whatever it is.
Exactly.
Because obviously on a client you're just playing yourself, right? Or like if there's 2, whatever. Yeah. What does my thing want to do, irrespective of the character itself? Like for my character.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically an abstraction of your gamepad or keyboard and mouse, wherever input device you're using.
Right, yeah. It's basically, it's that to be your input. So you can either like put your input straight directly into the character and be like, if your character is in this world and being used by the controller, then you can have these inputs. If not, like say you get rid of the character, it's like, well, there's no inputs then, but it's like, okay, well, I still want to have a menu and whatever, right?
Yeah. Just press this button for a menu at any time, and then
or like gamepad navigation, right? So it's like if I flick up, I can still move. So through the main menu, like in the main menu, for example, we may not need a character spawned in order to still interact with the HUD. But
and I think maybe I found the use case. So let's say that you got like 4 local multiplayer. So player number 3, and you are in the lobby, right? So the players' character, they're not active. You still have to choose, right? You still have to choose who is your player. So you're in this lobby, but you got nothing. You just go on the menu screen.
The select screen, right? Yeah.
So player number 3, we just say, the first thing that it could do is just, I want to choose my character. So it's like, but it needs to have access to the controller, to the gamepad, in order to choose its own character, right?
Yeah.
The case that we have now is, and 99% of other people will have, just you start the game and you have your character, right? So because it's freaking there, right? So I think that makes it a little bit more sense. Like that is whatever local player or remote player for that matter. I'm not sure about. I need to get my head around how the remote player would get into this logic, but it's basically your gamepad interface throughout your lifetime of the game. And the thing that really is quite weird is that then they say, but we got the player character and we basically send all the inputs to the player character anyway. Like the way that you set up the inputs, like in the setup input component. So this setup input component is both in the player controller and is in the player character. Well. So I
think it's got to be like character specific inputs put in the player character. Gamepad specific inputs, so like HUD navigation, that kind of crap, put in the player controller. Like,
so I wonder, like, if you can you start a game with Okay, so can we have a? I think like, can you have a game mode without the player character? Because I think actually you can actually. If you
Find
don't,
out.
yeah, actually that makes sense, right? So if in the default game, right, like sorry, in the level you say, okay, this you go the word outline or whatever the thing's word detail thing, right? And in the game mode you say you don't set any default player pawn, but
I'm
you
gonna do
can
that.
set the player controller, right? So you can say, right, okay, I'm in this menu thing, and I'm still choosing who I want to be, right? Uh, so just give me access to the controller to just navigate on the menu, and then until I choose who I want to be, and then I play the game as
Yeah.
my character. Yeah, I
Yeah. So
think that
if you
makes
see
sense,
my
right?
screen now, right?
Yeah,
So if you see my screen, I've
yeah,
got no pawn class, right?
yeah, it's not, yeah,
So there's nothing. So when, but I've got a player controller, right?
yeah.
So when I jump in, it loads the level. I can actually theoretically use my controller and whatnot. So like if I wait, let me do this.
Oh, if
Let
you
me
restart the level, like press R, it should restart the level. I mean, not that you can't see it, but oh
yeah,
yeah, okay,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, exactly,
yeah. There
yeah,
we go. There we go.
yeah,
Okay, yeah, okay, yeah. So it's like without, yeah. Okay, so basically anything that you don't need a character for, put in the controller. But if you need a character to do it, and it's the character needs to do it, we put in the pawn. That kind of.
yeah. Okay, I mean that's it's a lot more clearer now, but and
That makes
because of that reason, I think the tutorial, well, the mission is in the player character because the player character must do it.
Yeah, it is. Well, the data is in the
In the player state always, right? Yeah, the
player
data
state,
is, yeah,
like what tutorial stage I'm in, blah blah blah
yeah,
blah
that
blah.
is in the player
But
state, yeah.
the completion of that
Yeah, the
is in the
logic
player.
is in the, which makes a lot of sense because the UMG is speaking with the player character, not necessarily the player controller. I mean, it can speak with both, right? But I think, yeah, it will make more sense
Oh
if
no,
they, yeah.
the UMG is actually speaking to the player state, right? Like that's what it's. The UMG is querying the player
Oh
state
yeah, it's,
because then
yeah,
the UMG says, I want it. You need to do 3 moves, right? I have because
yeah,
the UMG doesn't even know what the character is, right? It just says this is a checkbox, right? So then to satisfy this checkbox, it queries the player state to be like, do I need to tick off the checkbox? Like, is the checkbox being ticked off? Blah blah blah. Um, my only thing now is that link there between the UMG and the thing. So like, in order to check off. Oh no. Because then we can just be like, because yeah. So my thing is because I still think the controller will have to talk somehow because my one thing is now so the UMG will be like show tutorial section 1 stage 1 blah blah blah
yeah,
the requirements 1 and 2 right they're all false when they're true we know we changed the thing so we could code up the UMG to work now without having any back-end logic right and just have booleans that when it's true tick off this when it's thing tick off that when it's that tick off
yeah,
this right then and we have then a function to be like transition stage and then that will go to the next widget in the array of widgets whatever we want to do so that's all fine now so who tells it to tick off the widget right because the character will update the player state right to say like I've completed I guess no because then the tutorial stage right no. Sorry, I'm stupid. The UMG will be like will always be getting if I'm tutorial stage 0 thingy 1, I need to display this, right? If I'm blah 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 ticked off, then I need to do this tick off this, tick off that. Then once my tutorial stage goes to 2, I then transition to number 2, blah blah blah. My player state holds all this information to be like blah blah blah, but my character, that's who updates my
yeah,
player
yeah,
state
yeah.
basically.
Because like you never have like we need to split it in a way that you never have logic in the player state. Like we just
Yeah.
need to treat the player state as our database access, but we can say, oh, like, so it's not event based. Like the player state just hold data, and the events are part of the logic. So the logic uh needs to be um managed in the executed in the player character, which is the
Yeah.
manager
So I'm
of
I'm
the
guessing the player character will have like a tutorial manager, right? That if you're doing the tutorial, it'll
yeah
tick itself to be like, okay, what is my sequence of executed moves? Like, what stage am I in the tutorial? But it's gonna access the player state to do so,
yes
and be
yeah
like, what state am I in? Oh,
yeah
once I've done 3 moves, update my player state. Then I see, okay, what state am I in now? Update my player state, blah blah blah, and then my UMG is gonna be like, what state are you in? Oh, you're in state 1, section 2, so I need to do this. Oh, you've moved on, you've completed this. Okay, I need to do that. Okay. Okay. I think I get it now.
yeah
I think I get it now.
yeah because I think that yeah, in a way the player controller should be part of the game and not part of the character. From what we've just been saying, right? But that is for later. Now we got it there, but I think right. Should be player controller, right? So the player controller is the problem is that we got this. Yeah, no, that is correct. Like the online player controller,
Yeah.
it logs in the
Find
user, create a
session, create
session.
session. Yeah, that
But
it
yeah,
doesn't
that's
care
correct
about
because you don't have your character, your physical
character.
character on the screen yet. You just know that
Yeah.
it's you playing, right? You logged in
Mm.
into the game, and then you go.
Yeah, we need to take the controller. Like I think player controller is what's making it confusing. It's just input controller, really, right?
Yeah.
Like in this scenario, player isn't the player in the game. Player
No,
is
yeah,
me,
it's the human
the player.
player
Yeah,
holding the
yeah,
gamepad, right? Yeah.
yeah. So as a naming, it should be like user controller or something like that.
Yeah,
Is
user,
naming
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
player controller makes you think it. Does it? It's is it my character's good? No, but like it's you as a user controlling the game, not your character. Your
Yeah, yeah,
character has its
exactly.
own inputs and all that stuff. Like that's your player character.
Oh no, I mean,
You, the user.
okay. They call it player character and player controller, so I think like he's the character of actually the human player, and this is the controller. Okay, like yeah, we got confused, but I think
Yeah,
logically it sort of makes sense. Is
he does. Yeah.
okay, fine.
Yeah, it's true actually. Player gamepad,
Yeah,
player
yeah,
character. Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah.
That makes
Okay,
sense.
okay, yeah. That's player state is. Uh, Player state is also correct because it is the state of the person playing the game, right? Oh yeah, I did whatever 20 million points, and there another person playing the game on the same,
I did 50 million points. Yeah, yeah, it's true. I've completed the tutorial.
yeah,
UMG's like, yeah, you've done the tutorial. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
yeah. That's yeah,
Okay.
we will forget about this tomorrow, and
Yeah,
then say
I
why
love
would
how
I put
last
it
night we're
there?
like, we're gonna forget it.
Yeah,
Comes to
and
this
we did,
morning.
yeah.
What was it again?
Yeah, and we did. Yeah. I mean, no, we almost like I think we always got it. Like okay. I mean, we really
Yeah.
got it correct, but we never really dug deep of why we got it correct. We just assumed that oh yeah. I mean, no, what we got wrong yesterday is just we wanted to put the logic in the controller, which it was incorrect. But, yeah. So okay. Right, and after all of this, then yeah, then because of what we just said, should we create the tutorial manager as just a manager, like we have the jump manager, like we had any other managers? I mean, no, sorry, mission manager, right? I think it makes a lot more sense, right?
Oh, and then but is then the mission manager? Oh, I see. So then the mission manager that will have like different mission classes, right? Of like
Yeah.
time travel class, and then we have. I don't know if I can. Like, but this again, this is free roam stuff, right? So I guess it's then time trial thing and then challenge thing, and because then once we actually change the game mode. Oh no, yeah, these are the missions themselves. The missions themselves are their own thing, right? Yeah, no, yeah, you're right. The missions themselves are their own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing that I'm
Yeah,
slightly nervous about it is that we haven't used much of the game side of thing, right? And
yeah, like game instance, game mode, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Which.
But I think it's because the reason why is that the game. I think that's a more those stuff there are more like generalized. So like for us, it's different because like so say for example a game mode, right? Because that's level dependent, right? That is, oh, you go into a new level with this game mode, you'll jump in a level of team deathmatch, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh, I'm in my team deathmatch mode, right? So then you have all these rules for the game mode. But we don't necessarily have that right now because in one game mode, we want to be able to do all the different stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you want to be able to do a time. It's like it's almost like one big game mode that has the main rules about one player can like you can have 8 players in your lobby. Like our game mode in this case shouldn't be called free game mode. It should be called free roam or like open world or sandbox or whatever. Like whatever that this is in terms of like this is our like free roam mode, right? Like you're able to just go around, explore the level, do the basic stuff, like whatever it is. When you go into like multiplayer games and you join a level and you're doing like races, then we'll use a different game mode because then it's like this thing has 10 minutes before the session stops or whatever, or like there can only be X amount of players in this game mode, blah blah
blah. Yeah. So.
Like
Yeah,
I don't think we'll get game modes until we go to multiplayer.
Yeah, exactly. We may find a case for game mode to use game mode down the line, but I cannot see a case now.
I don't really see one until you have multiple players because then because theoretically until you have multiple players, everything can be accessible just from free roam.
Yeah, that is the thing, right? We have a Uber game mode, which is because they got a strange link between level and game mode. It looks like a level is specifically designed to a particular game mode, which for some game it makes sense, but if you have a open world like sandbox game, it doesn't make sense at all, right? Because you don't have levels.
Yeah, I think it's for the more like instance based stuff where you're never just like so say like a shoot like Call of Duty for example, right? Each time you go into a level, you may go into say Rust map, right? And that's the Rust level. But then you might want to be like, this is team deathmatch, this is capture the flag, this is whatever. So then you have a different base rules for the actual level itself. So that's when you use your game modes. Whereas our thing is like you're free roam and it's all just in one. So like open world games wouldn't really have game modes per se. And the only time you'll get to your game modes be when you have like multiplayer sessions, which I think is our case. Because like theoretically it's all just one big level, right? So obviously then we'll stream and do blah blah blah, right? And we could have like game modes in terms of like, okay, if you go to like the I don't know, fucking IMAX or something, and you enter an instance of like go inside this building and do this challenge or whatever, then we might be like, oh, escape for security game or whatever it is, right? But right now, since everything is just based in the open world, I do think we're just on one game mode.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Right. Yeah. So we do the tutorial, what the mission manager into, and the guess, right? If we have to connect, right, the mission with the game mode mission. for now, I think we just index by ID. Like, I don't know, like yeah, the climb mission is whether, you know, it's just a simple string ID.
Yeah,
so
I think
we're
that's going to be a sub ID of the tutorial, right? So we know that, because I think the rather than saying fucking tutorial, let's just think of it as a mission, right? Like, so
Yeah.
first mission, right? So mission codename tutorial, right? So then when we have our in our player state, we can be like, yeah, the player state will hold whatever like mission, like state or whatever you're on or whatever. In this case, yeah, I guess in this case the tutorial class, the tutorial mission overview class, which will have, but then the player character needs to be able to access that too. So like, your player character has to have a manager that will tick on the mission and stuff, and that will do all the logic for the mission.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's correct, right? Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. And then maybe we have the tutorial mission, and that is just holds data about that. So it has like, oh, time in mission, current mission section, like if you have like climb section, jump vault section, whatever. And then whenever we want to make a new mission, we just create a new subclass of the mission manager, or just add like a struct or a class to that. And then your mission manager will end up having like all the different possible missions you can do. And then it can be like, oh, like my mission manager, I want to do mission manager free run of race mission or free time trial 1 mission or whatever it is.
Yeah. We go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we get this global mission manager, and then we see. Yeah, and then we will just add the logic to that. I mean, for now, right, the mission manager will ignorantly play the tutorial missions with the correct timing and stuff, right? So that's just one.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, the mission manager is just a case of updating the player state appropriately, right? Like to be like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's a lot. I mean, I'm a lot comfortable with this logic because, yeah, it just fits a lot nicely.
And then I think even I guess the player state will be like, it'd be like current state is like in mission, or like mission completed, and then when it says in mission, it'd be like get mission data would get to the mission manager, and that would be like, you are blah blah blah, and you have thingy, and you have whatever, your thing is level 10.
I think the player state shouldn't have, for as long as we can, right? I think the player state shouldn't have any functions, like just data.
Oh, yeah. So, okay, no. So
and the
player
manager
state just holds
says,
the data.
right, okay, give me the data,
Okay.
and I decided what to do.
Got you. I see. Okay. So the player state will hold the actual, like, level 1, blah, 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 all that crap. Then
Yeah, it would probably be quite a big structure at the end, right? Well,
Yeah,
or a set
that's
of,
what I'm thinking, yeah.
a set of structure. But then we can be granular at that level the way we want, because everything is in the player state, right? It's just give me the data for jump section for the thing. So like we can be granular like that. It's like we can be granular on interface rather than the actual implementation. So we in fact we can have, which may be the best way to do it. We have we call it player matrix, right? So the player matrix holds everything, right? Like freaking like the whole universe in there, right? But we don't care, because we will never access that directly. We will say, give me the number of jumps. Give me the number of jumps between 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock. Like you know, like an SQL query, right?
Yeah. The player state is the database,
Yeah,
basically.
it's
That's
the
literally
database,
what it is.
yeah.
It's our database, and we have a bunch of tables, a bunch of rows, a bunch of records, and that's what we do. We just store it all in the database, and then our character is what's querying that in order to do different things.
Yeah. So because like if you're granular at that level, we don't really care that, you know. Yeah, I mean, data in the database is stored like this massive chunk of data, right? It's very, you know, obscure, and they don't have any, you know, any structure. It's probably super highly optimized, right? So yeah, we do the same. We just stuck all the data in there, which I think, right, we don't even need to have the. Okay, the only thing about that is that I don't think that data is gonna be remotely any concern in terms of size, because a 4K texture will be 100 times bigger than all of our save data, realistically, right? Like for the final game, right? I mean, how many floats do you want to save?
Same. It's also it's also just it's like persistent, right? So it's not like we'll update it as and when we need. So like it's not like we're not, again, like the state doesn't do any logic. It's just holding value. It's just holding numbers, basically.
Yeah.
It's basically just saying like, here is a bunch of numbers, and it's like a file that has a ton of numbers in it, and it's like a megabyte.
Yeah, so like even a megabyte of data, right? Like if we save on storage, like the slow bit is to actually access this storage, but probably does go a buffer of you know, at least few megabytes, at least, like, I don't know, I would just guess like at least 32 megabit. Like writing 32 megabytes is gonna be the same as writing 1 byte in terms of like access, right? Because just check it there. Especially these days, right? So I don't see that, and I don't see that the size of the player state will ever be a concern. Because I would be really surprised if the player state is even more than 1 megabyte. I can't, like, how many? Unless we start to do silly things like saving data for every second of the game, and you know it gets, you know, it multiplies like exponentially, right? Unless we are very stupid about that, right? If we just like, if all the data is it's like puntiform, right? It's just one like element, right? How many jumps? Not like, yeah, like I think I will forbid arrays and multi-dimensional structures in the save data, right? In the player state. If you need to store an array, you really need to ask yourself why, because that could, you know, like that grows like how, you know.
Yeah, I don't know about storing an array seems sus. I think that's dangerous there.
And so I mean, yeah, if we keep it just to puntiform data, right, just single values, scalar values, I don't see how just putting everything in there could ever be a problem. Which I think that now that I think about it, we may want to remove the player matrix and just put really everything in player state itself. I think so. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe logically we can still split it just to have our own sanity, but it won't matter really. Like performance-wise and, you know, runtime-wise, it won't really matter. Yeah, maybe just to keep our own sanity, we would just have. Well, let me say that, right? If we have a lot of use save game classes, right? Go player matrix, we got the tutorial save game, we got we need to add a lot more logic into say, oh, save the tutorial, or save the climb thing, save whatever, right? So what I really want to do is just like save, like whatever, because we know that saving 1 byte or saving 32 megabytes is going to be exactly the same uh, effort from the game. So I don't think that will help the logic massively. Just say, yeah, save the game. Which again, I think like save into the slot and the thing, they're not. How much data do you want to save? And if you need to save more data, you need to ask yourself why. Like, how on earth do I need so much data saved? I don't know. Maybe I'm simplifying. Maybe for I don't know, a GTA type of game, maybe you need that granularity because I don't know, the super persistent universe. You need to whatever, but for us, I can't see how we can possibly have any problem with that. And just having a unique, oh yeah, save the game. Who cares? It's gonna be a lot simpler to manage.
No, I agree. I think it will be.
Yeah, what we can do is let's put everything into the player matrix, okay? And then as soon as we see that something doesn't fit in there, we just kill it, and we put basically all the data in the player state, and that's it. And we say, yeah, sure, everything is in here.
Sorry, say that again. So you're saying put everything into the.
Like, if we go
Put everything into the player metrics.
yeah. No, so yeah. So we got SPP player state, right? At the moment holds pointed to the player matrix, which is no, that's correct actually. No, okay, that's okay, yeah. So everything will go into the player matrix, okay, which is a cool name anyway. And the player matrix is a U-save game, right? So the player matrix, right, will hold everything, right? Every possible thing that we need to save for the player, it will go into here. Being a jump, a climb, a mission, a thing, whatever it is, it will go here, right? And we'll only have data, right? We go, okay, number of jumps, number of, right? And then in the player in the player character, we'll get the player matrix, right? Just like straight through, right, directly. Get player matrix, and then, well, every manager could say, okay, add the climb, add +1 to the climb, blah, 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 and then the mission manager will say, right, okay, what data we got here? How many climbs did you do? We did 2 climbs. Then send the message to the UMG and say, update the UI that you done it. Yeah, please. Okay, yeah, that makes it. Okay, I think that for me is decided, right? I cannot see anything wrong with that.
And then, so what does the player state store?
Nothing, absolutely nothing. Well, it's just like the only purpose is to hold this usave state class, usave game class, because this is the persistent access to saving the player state persistently, right? So the player state will be will live throughout the gaming session, okay, from start to finish. But the data, right, that he has, right, all that data is inside this class, And this is the class that gets saved into the persistent store and loaded from the persistent store on construction. On construction, it will load the player matrix. So every time this player gets that gets spawned, like
okay, sorry. Okay, so you're basically taking it one level deeper, right? So it's like the player state holds all the data, basically, but okay. So basically, the player state holds the player metrics, which okay. So is it like this? So like the player state holds the database, basically, and the player metrics is the database. And so when we save it, we save player metrics, right? To the we save it to the player metrics variable, or like whatever it is there, and then when we load the game, we load it to player metrics.
Yeah, like here, right? On construction, right? This will be called probably like, because this lives throughout the whole game. This the first time the character gets created, this will get called, and then we say, right, okay, load all the metrics for this particular character, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the player, we load everything. So when we load the game, the player state will just hold the player metrics value, which basically when we load it, when we run the game in the players that we put all the characters player metrics, which is what we're saving, into that variable in the player state. So the player state will hold the database, basically.
Yeah.
Will hold all the info about the character, but it's within that player metrics variable. So therefore, then we just access the player metrics variable from the player state whenever we want to get query data, whatever it is. And then when we want to save, we just save that player metrics variable. That's what we're actually storing. That makes sense.
Yeah. And if we have something, right, that doesn't need to be persistently stored, I don't know, like number of stupid things, we put it here, right? It says, yeah, you can have a number of stupid things, but you don't want to save the number of stupid things.
Yes, but you still want it to be persistent across
across the whole game existence.
Got you. So like stuff we don't want to save. Okay, so anything we actually want to save, so that when they close the game and come back a week later, it's still there. We put in the player metrics. Anything we just want to know while they play, but when they stop playing, we get rid of. We put in the player state like that. But the player state acts as basically our access point to get our save file from storage and have it for that session, basically. Exactly. And then when we stop the session, we save to the storage using that our variable that we held in the player state. And then when we start the session, we say, okay, well, grab it from the player thing and keep it in the player state whilst we're playing, because that is current session. Then once we say, okay, we're done, save, take it, put it away, destroy it, whatever, then the player state doesn't hold. Yeah, okay. Got you. That makes sense.
Yeah. So the player metrics, like, they can be saved at any checkpoint or any any triggering thing, right? Like we trigger it, right? Like we could trigger at the very end, but like if you do an important mission, it will probably be saved when you complete it or whatever, right? Yeah, so basically it's an event based, like this will be saved based on some events that the manager will decide that is worth saving, right? So like, and I think like just to make it a little bit more cleaner, we can have player matrix, and then we can have I don't know the name, like player temporary things that holds all the temporary variables. So we have only two way to access this thing, like get the player matrix or get the temporary matrix.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense to think of it as the player state is that thing that we use per time I play that's persistent, right? So that other people know what I'm doing, right? But then I don't want other people to like I don't want to have to keep accessing my save game in order to get data for the client to know. So we just say, oh, get your last save, load. Yeah, I think of it sort of like load game into your main sort of like player storage. and then you do everything in the player storage, and when you're done, save it and quit. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. That's a good thing. Okay. Yeah, I think this should work. Right. Let me. I need to grab some lunch. I'm starving.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you wanna like reconvene in, I don't know, half an hour ish, and
Yeah, let's do it.
then we do the real thing. What
Yeah.
should we stop the stream or should we? Maybe we
I
should
say
stop
just
every
kill the stream.
start.
We'll just go again. We may as
Yeah,
well.
stop,
No point.
stop the start. Okay, right. Stop every start, and then I'll see you later. So see here, stop.